it's time to buy your Delta Dart and your Alpha Rocket kits. You can look up on the website to find out how much those kits are and bring in that amount of money in a check, preferably a check or cash would be okay, and go to the business office with the proper business office pass and purchase your aerospace kit. When you get your receipt, come back to the class and give your teacher the receipt, and you will receive your Alpha Rocket kit, which comes bagged like this, and your Delta Dart kit, which comes bulk, so the teacher will give you a bundle of sticks, a propeller, a tissue paper with instructions on it, and then there's also an instruction booklet that comes with it. There is a rubber band that comes with it also. You will receive the rubber band when you are ready to fly. So let's go over to the checkout station and check out the equipment we need to build our Alpha Rocket and our Delta Dart. Here we are at the checkout station, and you're going to need some equipment to help you build your Alpha Rocket. And what you're going to need is, first of all, you'll need a scissors, tape, and glue caddy. You'll need one of the cutting mats, particularly because you will need the X-Acto knife. You won't necessarily be cutting on the cutting mat, but you will need the X-Acto knife. And not right away, but later, as you get further along, you will, when you get to the point where you're putting on your fins, you'll want to check out a fin jig. But don't check the fin jig out today because other kids may need it in other classes. So don't check that out just yet. And let's go over to our workstation. All right, here we are at one of the tables where we're going to be working. You should be working on a nice hard surface so that if you spill glue or something, you can easily clean it up. Let's take a look at our kit and see what's in there. We have the body tube right there. We have the engine tube, a little blue one. We have the nose cone. We have decals, a little warranty thing. And we have 2 sets of direction sheets. And we have a package with our parachute and our shock cord. And we have there's a little bag here with a little green tube that goes on the engine tube. And here are your fins, this piece of balsa wood. And right here, don't lose this little guy. This little tiny piece of soda straw is your launch lug. A lot of kids lose that, and the teacher only has a limited supply of those, so please don't lose that little thing. Let's open up our fin package here. And we can get that out later. Now, let's open the parachute package so we can get stuff out of there when we need it. And the first thing that we're going to work on will be the engine compartment right here. And so we're going to take that little blue tube, and we're going to take the little green tube. There we go. And there's a piece of metal, the engine clip, inside the parachute bag, so we're going to take that. And first of all, try this out. See how tight it is. Usually these two go together pretty tightly, and boy, that's a little tighter than I would like for trying to squeeze glue between the two of them. So what I really like to do is I take the X-Acto knife and I peel out. Let's see if I can do this so you can see it on camera. I peel out the innermost layer right there. See how that inner layer is coming out? And I just pull it right out of there. There we go. Just pull that out and throw it away. And now you'll see that your blue tube slides very easily into that green tube. So you definitely want to do that to make this slide more easily. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your blue tube, your blue engine tube, and you're going to carefully put a little, about a 3 millimeter slit right there at the end. And you can see right where the slit is about 3 millimeters from the end. and the slit is about 3 millimeters long. And that slit will be just enough. There's a squiggle at one end of this metal clip, and there's a right angle hook at the other end of the metal clip. And we're gonna stick that hook right in that slit that we just made, so that your engine clip hangs on there just like that, with the inside. See how the little right angle clip goes in the inside? That's what keeps the engine from shooting up into your rocket. Now we're going to put the green piece right on the end like that, and you can see I've got about 3 millimeters of blue sticking out the end there. And then we're going to take our glue. This is just regular wood glue. Elmer's glue works fine. Elmer's white glue or this wood glue works just great. And we're going to put a ring. And I usually put a fairly thick ring, because a fairly thick ring will not dry too fast. And I'm going to shove this halfway down, right about to there. And then I'm going to wipe off the excess, like so. And there we have our complete engine compartment. And excuse me while I wipe this off my hands. The next step will be to put our engine compartment inside the body tube. And to do that, again, I'm going to use a fair amount of glue. And the reason that I want to use a fair amount of glue is, and you can see I put a kind of a big bead of glue all the way around the inside there. The reason I want to use a fair amount of glue is because it won't dry too fast, and it'll give me some time to insert this into the end. And there we are. Our engine tube and our body tube are flush with each other. They're even on the end. Can you see that, how they're both even? And believe it or not, that is dry now. There's no way I'll get that out without ripping that rocket apart. So that set is all done. So remember, the trick here, number one, the trick for putting the green piece onto the blue piece is to use a fair amount of glue so that it doesn't dry before you slip it on all the way. And the trick to get the green-blue piece into the brown piece is, again, to put a fairly good supply of glue in there so it doesn't dry out on you as you're slipping it in. And if you do it right, this little clip will be able to pull out far enough to slide your engine in on launch day. So that's why you put the green one halfway down the blue one, so you can pull that clip out like that. Okay, we're going to set this aside for a few minutes, and we're going to work on our shock cord. In the parachute bag, you will find a rubber shock cord. It might be an elastic one, it might be a rubber one, but either way you'll find a shock cord in with the parachute. Take that shock cord, set it aside, then we need to take and look at our direction sheet, because on our direction sheet we have a shock cord mount, which is on the other direction sheet. I'm sorry. By the way, these directions are pretty good. If you want to review back without looking at this video and check to see what you should be doing, check the direction sheets. Also check my website for lots of color pictures and so forth that'll help you put this together. Right down here we have your mount for the shock cord, and over here this is for lining up your fins, but we're going to be using a fin jig, so don't worry about this. We're going to cut out this little trapezoid piece right now. Sometimes kids panic because they've lost their sheet of directions, and they panic because they don't have their shock cord mount. And if you lose your sheet of directions, your teacher can help you quickly make a shock cord mount. In fact, you could make a shock cord mount out of that little scrap right there. So no big thing. If you lose your direction sheet, you can still make one of these. Now you have Section 1, Section 2, Section 3 on your shock cord mount. and we're going to fold section 1 over section 2, like so, the smallest one. And then we're going to take some glue and we're going to put it underneath where section 1 folds over and touches section 2. Then I'm going to take my shock cord, and notice I'm putting it on there at an angle. I'm not going straight. I put it on at an angle, and the reason I like to put it on at an angle is that as you fold it over and fold it over, the shock cord doesn't fold over on itself. It folds over next to itself. So then we're going to fold that over, and the shock cord is glued inside that first tab. Then we're going to put another coating of glue on there, and we're going to fold section 2 over onto section 3. And now the nice thing about putting that shock cord in at an angle is that the shock cord is inside there now, and it's literally zigzagged through there, which makes it a little stronger. So you should have something that looks like that. Now we're going to glue that shock cord into the end of our body tube. So at the other end of the engine compartment up here, we're going to put some glue on this paper tab that's glued to our shock cord. And we're going to run this down inside. We're going to put it down there fairly far. I like to put it down, oh, it looks like it's down there at least 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to hold it for a couple of minutes, nice and tight. It shouldn't take too long to dry, but hold it there for a minute or two. Hopefully you won't glue your finger in there. And if you have it far enough in there, the paper mount will not interfere with the nose cone when you put the nose cone in. So there, you should have something that looks like that. Now, at this time, you're going to want to go and get your fin jig to put the fins on. Your fins are in this piece of balsa wood, and they're scored. This piece of balsa wood is scored so that the fins will actually break out of here, and you'll have three pieces of scrap, and you'll have 3 fins. There we go. And 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to the checkout station and get our fin jig, and let's get a little tiny piece of sandpaper at the same time. Here's the fin jig, and you can see it has little clothespins attached to it. And this is an overnight checkout item, so you can check it out at the checkout station. You can have it overnight until your fins dry, and then you need to turn this back into the checkout station as soon as possible when you're done with it, because there are kids in other classes who want to use this, and it's not fair to keep it in your locker for extended periods of time. We're going to take our fins. Notice, remember we had 3 of them, and they have little snags along the edges and little irregularities on them from being broken out of the piece of balsa wood. So we're going to take these fins and we're going to carefully put them together so they're 3 layers thick, and get them all lined up with each other. And then take this piece of sandpaper. There's a box in the checkout station of little tiny pieces of sandpaper. This piece of sandpaper right here is enough probably for everybody in your group, because balsa wood is so soft that everybody can sand their fins on one little piece of sandpaper. So you really don't need a lot of that. And we're going to take those fins and we're going to just quickly sand the edges, and as we carefully turn them over in our hand, we'll try not to let the fins shift against each other. And just let's do a quick sanding job here to get rid of all the snags and irregularities that might be on them. Don't spend too much time sanding the fins, because if you spend too much time, the fins start losing the shape that you want. And then all of a sudden you find out that, you know, one fin is shaped differently from one of the other fins. And there we go. We have 3 fins all sanded, ready to go. We're going to take our body tube with the metal clip, the engine clip down, and I'm going to pull that engine clip out a little bit so the body tube slips onto this shaft right here. And notice my engine clip is about halfway between these 2 supports, right there, halfway between them. And just kind of get this out of your way. You can put your fins on. You can put your fins on like this. You can put your fins on like this. You can put your fins on like this. I've even seen some kids put their fins on like this, but they don't hold very tightly. At any rate, however you put your fins on, make sure that all 3 fins are going on the same direction, so you don't have one fin looking goofy. I'm going to choose this side right here, and let's put some glue. Actually, let me adjust my height first before I put glue on there. I'm a little low with the body tube. You can see right in here the body tube is hanging down a little far, so let's move that body tube up a little bit. Do I like that? Yeah, I like that. That looks good. Okay, so now we're going to put glue right along here. Don't go crazy with the glue. Little bead of glue right along there. And then we take the clothespin and we hold that in place. And then we'll do the next one. Little bead of glue along here. If you put a small bead of glue along here, it will dry faster than if you put huge gobs of glue on. Just a very small bead will dry much faster. There we go. And our 3rd fin. Okay, there we have our fins all glued up and held in place by the fin jig. Now I need to go over an alternate method of gluing your fins on, just in case there are no fin jigs available. And so here you're going to take your set of plans where you already cut your launch lug or your shock cord mount out of. And there's this other piece right here. It's called the Alpha Tube Marking Guide. And you're going to cut that out. And you'll see on that guide there are 4 arrows drawn for you. Set that over there, get it out of our way. And then we're going to take a little piece of tape and we're going to take our tube marking guide and we're going to wrap it around the bottom of our rocket, and we're going to put it says the words match lines, and then it says overlap tab. Overlap tab goes underneath, match lines goes over the top, and we'll tape it in place like that. So we have this little piece here. Then I'm going to look for the one that says launch lug right there. And I'm going to line that one up. It says launch lug. I'm going to line that up with the metal tab that holds the rocket engine in place. Line that right up just right. And then I'm going to mark fin, fin. Careful not to move it. Fin, fin. Fin, fin. So if you line that launch lug line up with the metal clip and mark your fins, then none of your fins will run into the metal clip. Now this is now trash. You do not need this. Get rid of it. Some kids glue it on. Do not glue this onto your rocket. It is scrap. Throw it away. All right, now we're going to take our fins, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. You may want to ask a friend for some assistance and get a friend to hold the fin and the body tube in place, because what you're going to have to do is you're going to line this fin up with the two little marks you made with your pencil right there, just like that, and then you can put a piece of tape over the fin to hold it in place. And you'll probably have to cut that off so it doesn't run into the next fin. There we go. And that'll hold your fin in place while it dries. Now this gets tricky, so as I said, you may want to find a friend or a partner who will hold the fin and body tube in place while you put the tape in place. I've been doing this for a while, so I'm fairly good at getting these lined up and doing it myself. And cut this off so it doesn't run into the next fin. This procedure, by the way, is on my website, so if you need any pictures or anything, you can either review the video that you're watching right now, or you can look at the pictures on my website, which will show this exact same procedure. Lining those fins right up on those pencil marks that I made. It doesn't take much to hold those fins in place like that. It's probably strong enough to very gently set down in your locker just like that, or if you don't want to risk damage, you could put it upside down in your locker like so. You don't want to lay it like this. If you lay it like this, it could buckle and then you'll have a crooked fin that you'll have to break off and re-glue later. But either store it like this. Actually, maybe store it like this for the rest of the period until these fins dry somewhat, and then after they've had 10 to 15 minutes to dry, then you could store it in your locker like that until tomorrow. Let's take a look at our nose cone right here. The nose cone has a little slot right here, and you'll probably see there's a bit of plastic inside that slot. It's supposed to be open, so you're going to have to take your X-Acto knife, careful not to cut yourself, and slide your X-Acto knife in there and cut that little piece out. Little chad came out of there, and as you can see now, we have an opening there, little opening, kind of like a handle. Then we're going to take our parachute out of our bag, and of course the parachute is in another plastic bag, so let's cut that one open. The parachute should be all assembled. If you have an older kit, it might not be assembled. You might have to ask your teacher for some help for an older parachute that needs final assembly. But your parachute should have 3 loops on it down here, strings that attach in 6 different places on the parachute. And then you will notice at the top of the parachute there's a dotted line that what they suggest that you do is to cut a small hole in the top of your parachute. I like to keep the hole kind of small. The reason for the hole is it allows the parachute, it allows air to slip through the parachute a little bit faster. And if you have air slipping through the parachute just a little bit faster, that will cut down the risk of your rocket being up in the air too long and getting caught in a tree. You know, if it's coming down too slowly, it'll drift and it'll get caught in a tree. I usually cut out that little white section in the middle. There is a dotted line, and if you cut the dotted line out, that cuts out a lot. So I usually just cut the white, and it's really easy to cut. I just snip it off, and there we have a little hole in the middle. If you want to go bigger, it'll come down faster. You could cut at the dotted line. Again, just bunch your parachute up like that and cut it down a little further. So however big you want. We're a little bit bigger that time. However big you want to go is fine. Now we're going to take these 3 strings. There's one. There's the other. And there's the third. All 3 strings, and then I'm going to pull down on the center of the parachute, just like that, to tighten up on those 3 strings so I have a nice tight little loop right there. That loop is all 3 strings together. There's my parachute hanging like so. I'm going to take the nose cone, I'm going to run that little loop through that little handle type thing, and let's take a look. Can we zoom in and take a close look where that loop right there is going through that little handle type thing? Look at that, see? Going through that handle. So there's our loop right there. And we're going to take our nose cone, we're going to open up that loop, and we're going to run the nose cone through. Let's take a look at that again. I have the loop opened up right there, see? There it is, parachute, nose cone in the middle between the parachute and the loop that I have here, and the cone, the nose cone goes right through the loop, and notice I pull it tight like that, and the parachute and the nose cone are now connected like so. Now we need to connect the shock cord, which we have already attached to the rocket. Need to connect the shock cord to that same loop on the nose cone right there. And if you know how to make a square knot, that would hold best. Square knot would be over under and under over. And a square knot does not come apart as fast as what they call a granny knot. So if you can tie a square knot, remember a square knot is over under over. And there we go. Our parachute and our shock cord are attached to the rocket. Now before we put the assembly all together, we're going to take a couple pieces of tissue paper, and this is wadding. I'm going to use tissue paper for wadding, and I'm going to tear one of those pieces of tissue paper in half. I'm going to crumple it up, and it goes right in there like so. Stuff it down in there. Take that other half of that tissue paper, wad it up, stuff it down in there. This is what keeps your parachute from melting during flight. We'll take the other piece of tissue paper, we'll cut that, tear that in half, and crumple up one and set aside the other. That should be enough for wadding, just those 3 halves of tissue paper, because you have to have room to put your parachute in there too. If you put 2 full pieces of tissue paper in there, you might run out of room. All right, now take your parachute and pull it nice and straight like so, and then you can, I like to fold it kind of like a jack-in-the-box like that, sort of, so that when it deploys, it comes out like that, see? I would not recommend going over and over and over and over like that, because then it's harder to deploy. I'd recommend zigzag, like so, and it'll deploy a little bit faster. Wrap it loosely with your line, like so. Stuff the parachute into the top of the rocket. Stuff the shock cord in there. And if you put the shock cord mount down low, as I explained to do earlier, your nose cone should slide in quite easily. And there we go. We have our nose cone in. And after this dries, I would say 20 minutes to dry. If you put the fin jig in place at the beginning of the period, you can probably pop this thing off the fin jig by the end of the period. Otherwise, put this in your locker and get it out tomorrow, and we'll do some finishing touches tomorrow. All right, our rocket has had plenty of time to dry, and our fins should be on there firmly. Let's very carefully take the clothespins off of here. If you used a small amount of glue, then you won't have glue gobbed all over this, and it should slip off of here very easily. And there we go. We're all ready for our next stage. And our next stage of building our rocket is to take and put a bead of glue right along each fin, and just with our finger wipe it clean, just like that. And of course you'll want to have something where you can wipe that off your fingers. Maybe a piece of tissue paper would work fine. And we're going to go around each fin where it meets the body tube. And put a little bead of glue. And this bead of glue is really important because it strengthens up the joint between the fin and the body. Otherwise, if you don't do this, you'll rip your fins off during flight. There are a lot of forces going on this tiny little rocket during its flight, which lasts maybe a total of 20 or 25 seconds. And those forces are strong enough to rip fins right off if they're not glued on properly. And there we go. We're all set. We have a nice bead of glue around each fin. Now, while those beads of glue are wet, look at your launch lug or your launch clip, your engine clip, and choose the fin that's on the opposite side from the engine clip, and take that little straw, that little piece of soda straw right there. Can you see that? And we're just going to lay that right in there while that bead is still wet. And that way, that little launch lug or that little piece of soda straw is what you're going to drop your rocket over for launch day. So just while the glue is wet, just lay it in there and it'll stay in place quite nicely. And that can dry again, probably overnight would be best, so that tomorrow we can do our painting. And turn this in. By the way, remember, this is not a painting jig. Do not take this in the shop to paint your rocket. It is not meant to be a painting jig. Turn it back in right now so the next kid can use it. All right, here we are at the checkout station, and we're going to get our paint and our paintbrush. And since all painting is done in the shop, we're going to have our safety glasses. So make sure and check out a set of safety glasses in order to go into the shop. Now, a couple of things mixing up this paint. Notice how small of an amount of paint is in that paint cup. Not much more than what you'd put on your toothbrush when you brush your teeth in the mornings. I look at that and I think, that's about twice what I put on my toothbrush in the mornings, maybe a little more. Do not take gobs of paint because it doesn't take much paint to do the job. I've talked to my friends in my group, and we've all agreed that we want to do our rockets in red, white, and blue. So one of us is getting a little cup of paint with red and a paintbrush to go with it, and another one of us is getting a little cup of blue with a paintbrush to go with it, and another person in our group is getting white with a paintbrush to go with it. And so we're gonna share in there, so we don't have to get extra paint, we don't have to waste paint, we don't have to clean brushes between using the different colors, because we'll each be using one brush with one color. So, you know, a little bit of planning there can you know, save you a lot of time and a lot of trouble cleaning up brushes. Also, don't forget, if you need something like green, if you need green, they can mix the paint for you here at the checkout station. Yellow and blue will give you green. If you need orange, yellow and red will give you orange. And if you need purple, red and blue will give you purple. If you need pink, or if you need baby blue, add some white to blue or add some white to pink. There are quite a few different shades of colors that you can get just with these colors we have here. We should have, at the checkout station, we should have white, black, blue, red, and white. So you should be able to get quite a variety of colors just with those. So we've got our paint, we've got our brushes, we have our rocket, we have our safety glasses. We're going to go into the shop, which is the only place in the room where you are allowed to paint. Nowhere else but in the shop. So let's go. All right, here we are. We're painting at the only place in the classroom where you're allowed to paint. And this I frequently call this the dirty table or the dirty bench. And nowhere else can you paint in the shop, nowhere else can you paint in the classroom except at the dirty bench. And we have our colors here. My friend is working over there, and she's working with blue. And my other friend is working over here, and he's working with white, and I'm working right here with red. And I want to do each of my fins a different color. So I'm going to do my first fin in red, and we'll start painting that. And as I paint, you go right up to the edge of where you want to paint, and then you stop there. Don't try to paint more than one color up against each other on the first day. When I get done doing the red, I'll ask my friend, can I borrow your blue, because I'm ready to paint blue. And my friend hopefully will be done with the blue paint and will pass the blue paint over to me, and then I'll paint the next fin blue. And if you're really careful about it, you can go right up to the edge of that fin with your blue paint. And get a fairly good line where the paint stops. You'll kind of have to play around with that paintbrush to see what it takes to do a clean edge. There we go. Yeah, we'll just clean the whole, paint the whole thing. You know, don't gob it on. It doesn't take a lot of paint to do this. It doesn't have to be gobbed on. Just put it on fairly thin. It should cover quite well. This balsa absorbs the paint quite nicely, so you shouldn't have much trouble covering. Now, if you should choose not to paint your rocket, some kids choose not to paint their rocket. The nice thing about painting your rocket is that it's easy to identify in a classroom situation. And you know, if we have 10 or 15 rockets ready to launch on launch day, and nobody has their rocket painted, nobody has their name on their rocket, rockets tend to get lost. But if your rocket is painted, very few people paint their rockets exactly the same, so it's easy to determine which rocket belongs to whom. However, if your rocket is not painted, you will be required to have your name somewhere on your rocket. Probably the best way to write your name would be with a Sharpie marker. And it would be best to write your name, your period, and your notebook number, so that if you and your rocket get separated, the rocket can get back to its owner quite easily. Okay, my friend just said that he's done with the white, and so I'm going to grab that white from him, and I'm going to go to the next fin, and I'm going to start painting white. So when I get done, I'm going to have 3 fins, 1 white fin, 1 red fin, and 1 blue fin. And tomorrow I'm going to paint the body tube of the rocket a different color. I think gray. Gray might be nice. So I think tomorrow I'll get some black and white, mix them together and get gray. So let's finish up painting, and we'll come back here tomorrow and paint our second coat. All right, we're all done painting our first coat, and of course we have 3 dirty brushes, and you know, we want to save money and we want to save on supplies and so forth. So we're going to go over to the sink and we're going to clean those dirty brushes. The little cups of paint will still be good for maybe half an hour to 45 minutes. So you can just leave your cups of paint right here on the dirty table. Someone can come by at the end of the day and toss them in the garbage. But for the time being, those might be valuable to someone who's painting a CO2 car or someone else who's painting a rocket. If you're near the end of the period and you leave the cup of paint there, someone next period might be able to get that cup of paint and use it before it has to be thrown away. So just set those there, and then we're going to go to the sink and clean these brushes. It's water cleanup. All you need is water to clean these brushes. Don't leave the brushes sitting here. That's a waste of time, and it's you know, it's some very irresponsible behavior on your part. All right, here we are, day 2. Our fins have had a chance to dry, and you don't want to try to paint colors up against each other when the colors are still wet. So now our white and our red and our blue fins are all dried out, and they're ready to paint with this gray. I mixed a little bit of black in with the white, and I got myself something that looks like a battleship gray, and I'm going to paint the body tube of the rocket a battleship gray. And one thing you have to remember is don't get paint, you know, here where the nose cone goes in, don't get paint around that area of the nose cone, or the nose cone when it goes in will stick in place. I would also not recommend painting the nose cone itself, because the paint you're using is an acrylic latex, and it won't stick to plastic very well at all. So I would just stick with painting the body of the rocket, and as you get down close here, very carefully run your paint up to the edge of yesterday's paint job, and if you're good with that paint, you'll be able to have nice sharp lines between one of the rocket parts and another. Nice long strokes will even out the paint, make the paint look nice. And I think red, white, and blue with a gray body will look kind of neat. Well, remember I told you in the video that if you chose not to paint your rocket, that you did need to have your name on it. So if you've got an unpainted rocket, put your name. Notice I wrote Johnny Smith's name here in the fin, and I've written kind of deeply so it can't be rubbed out or anything, or it can't be erased. Also, you've got a sheet of decals, and if you want to, you can put that set of decals either on an unpainted rocket or on a painted rocket. Either way, the decals are really easy to apply. They're just peel and stick, so you can take them right off of here, peel them right off. There's the word alpha. It's an alpha rocket, so we can put the word alpha right there. So this, you know, if you decide not to paint and you want to dress up your rocket, this can dress it up nice and quickly without spending a lot of time doing it. And just peel each decal off. This particular decal right here is a band. You can put it around the rocket pretty much wherever you want. I'm just going to put it right around the top. Nice little red and blue stripes right there. And then you've got some specially shaped decals for the fins. And these do depend on someone putting the fins on a certain way. And that would be if the fins are put on the way they are with this rocket right here. And of course, these will be a little bit long, so you'll want to snip these decals off when you put them on. There's one fin like that. They give you 4 of these, and a couple of them face one way and a couple of them face the other way. These 2 face one direction and those 2 face the other direction. So, you know, one is made for one side of the fin and the other is made for the other side of the fin. If you want these colored decals on both sides of all 3 fins, you'll have to find someone who's decided not to use the fin decals so that you can have fin decals on both sides of your fin. So there we are, we have 2 of them like so. We can take the other side. Anyway, on your sheet you have enough to put the decals on 2 sides of 2 of your 3 fins. And if you have a friend in your group who's decided not to use the fin decals, just ask that person if you can have their extra fin decals to do your 3rd fin. Cut the excess off the bottom. You could cut the excess off the outsides a little bit. Anyway, there you go. You have one side and then you have the other. And we can go all the way around and do all 3 fins if we can find someone who wants to throw some of these away. If you want, the brand name of the rocket is Estes. So if you want to, you could put an Estes sticker on here. That's up to you. It, you know, it's colorful, so it might improve the looks of the rocket. So there's a quick way to decorate your rocket without actually doing the painting. It's now ready for launch. Don't take your rocket home. Your rocket needs to stay here until launch day. On launch day, you will receive your engine. You will not receive it until launch day. You'll get your engine, your igniter, and your igniter plug. So take your rocket, put it in your locker. You're all set for launch day.